Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Happy Wednesday to you all, my friends. I hope that your day is going fantastic. I hope that it's going super well. And whether your day is just beginning, it's in the middle, or it's towards the end, I sincerely hope that it has been a good day, that you feel like you've actually accomplished things. I know that sometimes we can go through a whole work day or just a whole day in whatever we do, whether we're raising kids, whether we're teaching kids, whether we are at a 9-to-5 job, whether we work for ourselves, whether we're in school full time, whatever it is. I know that a lot of times we can go through a day and not necessarily feel productive despite any quote unquote work that we did. I totally get that, but I do hope that you were productive today and that you had a great day and that everything just went well. And for whatever reason, if you were having a hard day today and things just weren't going well, then I hope that you were able to take the 5-minute reset. And if you weren't, you're welcome to do it now. You can do it as many times during the day as you would like. And if you are not aware of what the 5-minute reset is, let me just tell you really quick. So it is when you take at least 5 minutes. If you have more time, take more time. But it's when you take at least 5 minutes to yourself to kind of come back to baseline, reset your day, to just kind of shake off whatever is getting at you, aggravating you, bothering you, causing you trouble. Shake it off and kind of take a quick little break from it, because Lord knows that things will just come raining down on us and we won't even realize how heavy our shoulders are until we actually take a break from things. So first off, take a break, and then next, come up with a quick list of at least 4 things that you feel grateful for, and that can be really big things, really small things, or things like right in the middle, For me, I'm super grateful today that I was able to get out of the house and go shopping at stores that I haven't been to in a while, like Marshall's and Ulta. And I'm also super grateful for the cookies that I'm going to make this evening, because I'm making late night cookies tonight. I'm also super grateful for the time I had with my daughter tonight and teaching her how to make spaghetti. And she's 12 and a half, and so she's kind of learning how to cook now. I know that when I was younger, and a lot of other kids might learn a little bit sooner, but everyone learns in the time that they desire, and I didn't really want to push her. And so tonight, we taught her how to make spaghetti, so that was fun. So whatever the things that you want to be grateful for, you can be grateful for those things. It doesn't have to be the same things as someone else. It needs to be all your own anyway. And by having the ability to be grateful for anything that's going on in your life, even for the delicious sandwich that you had for lunch, it just makes the list almost infinite of things you can be grateful for, because gratitude doesn't have to be limited to really big, grandiose things like having a roof over our head and food in our mouth, which are super important things, but those don't always need to be the things that are highlighted. So once you make your list of at least 4 things to be grateful for, I would encourage you that if you still have time left to maybe problem solve what you're going through, what is causing you trouble, what is kind of holding you back and holding you down per se, so that your next day or the rest of your day can become better. But the most important thing for the 5-minute reset is to be able to walk away without without feeling super negative about the rest of your day, and walking away feeling at least neutral, if not positive, about the rest of your day, even if your day is almost over. Because the last thing you want to do is go and pass on your negative attitude to someone else and cause them to have a bad day because you just couldn't shake it, or, misery loves company. So I encourage you, do not leave your 5-minute reset time until you're able to walk away feeling at least neutral, because despite what you're going through, and I'm not here to diminish your feelings at all whatsoever, but despite what you're going through, there are still so many things to be grateful for, and I feel like gratitude is one of the biggest and best and easiest ways to change and flip your mindset and let you know that yes, despite what you're going through, there are still amazing things happening to you and for you in the world. So just take that time if you are having a rough day, but again, I hope that you're having an amazing day. And just a reminder that this week on the podcast, we are talking about how to stop giving up on yourself, and today, Wednesday, we're going to talk about dwelling on mistakes. So let's go ahead and just jump right into this episode. Sometimes dwelling on our mistakes can seem like a comfort, because we like to think about how we could have done this or that differently, when in reality, dwelling is pulling you further and further away from getting any peace from past mistakes, or taking those opportunities to grow from those experiences. And I know that I go on and on about growing from past experiences and not discounting past mistakes, but it's really important to note because we do not want to pass up those opportunities. Like, those are some of the best opportunities to grow. And so, as always, I want to give you some tips on how to no longer dwell on our past mistakes and use those experiences to grow and become our best selves, because that is what I'm here to do, is to give you tips and ideas on how to become your best self despite any mental wellness, mental health struggles that you are going through. So first off, take the time to process what exactly happened to create the mistake in the first place. Evaluate what led you in that direction and how that affected you while it was happening. And so I think it's always important to think about how did that mistake happen? Where did it lead you in the process? And when did you come to find out that it actually was a mistake? When did you actually figure out that you needed to label that thing a mistake? And maybe it was something super obvious. Maybe it's just obvious that it was a mistake because you took the wrong direction, you took terrible advice, you just messed up, you did something wrong. That's fine, but I think it's also very important to take the time to actually process what happened, process how you got to that place, because if you don't do that and you don't take the time to actually think it through, then how are you supposed to prevent yourself from doing it in the future? How are you supposed to learn how to take a different route next time? How are you supposed to understand where your mindset was during that time if you in the moment could not have thought that there was any better choice or decision to be made? Like, sometimes that happens, and a lot of times it is the best way to learn is actually by going through things and making mistakes and falling down and getting ourselves back up again. So I believe it's really important to take the time to really evaluate that. And next, accept and admit whatever happened has happened. That's whatever's happened has happened, and that there is no taking it back. And I think that's the toughest part of falling into the trap of dwelling on mistakes, because we think that harping over what happened will change the outcome, and it won't. And you might think no, that's impossible. We can't change the past. But think about all the times that you actually have sat down and thought of something, a mistake that happened in your past, and you sat there and hindsight is 2020, and thinking all the things that you could have done, and it kind of reversing it in your mind and saying, well, if I done this, that, or the other, and then it kind of creates a resolution in your mind that maybe you had done it differently, or you were able to change the past, and if you had done all these things. But yes, okay, so it's acceptable to go through that line of thinking once, because then you actually can come back with ideas of how to better do whatever that thing was in the future, a better route to go, better advice to take, better way to understand which decision you should make or how to do that thing. But continually to come back to those thoughts and those feelings and that train of thought over and over and over again, which, like I said, is dwelling, is not going to help you at all. And you're just continually harping on something that isn't going to help you excel in life, become your best self, move forward, or even get over the fact that, yes, you made that mistake, it happened, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's totally fine. And it should be behind you. In the past, remember that well. I also want to encourage you to not look at your mistakes as failures per se, but as opportunities to learn and grow. And I know I mention this all the time, but it's worth mentioning all the time. Just labeling yourself as a failure will only bring you down even more and cause you to spiral down into more negative thoughts. And I've mentioned this before, and I believe a couple episodes of the podcast, and even on my Instagram, where I post more mental wellness content there every single day, Monday through Friday. But it's important that by labeling mistakes as failures, it's so much more harsh. And I know that words mean things, and it's really less, really in your mind, you might just believe it's like a synonym, and it is. But a lot of times our minds are fragile, especially if we're in the state where things have just happened and everything is super fresh. And it can be really helpful in the beginning, at least, to not label things as failures, because then it seems like you've gotten to the end of your rope, that you can't turn around. There's nothing you can do. You can't come back from that thing. But labeling it as a mistake, it's really just like taking one small road off the beaten path. It's just one little nick on the chart. It isn't like you are totally just falling off the edge of the cliff and there is no saving you, Like, I feel like the way that people think about those things can be completely different, even though the words can mean the same thing. So I want you to consider maybe labeling those things that didn't go the best that they could go as mistakes rather than failures, because it'll definitely help your mindset to accept them even more, because you do need to accept them. And there is no reason for you to spiral down into more negative thinking, because you're already thinking negatively because you know that you made a mistake and you feel like you're a failure. But what I'm telling you is to just realize that you've made a mistake. No one's perfect. Accept it for what it is and then move on with yourself. Don't waste your time thinking negative thoughts and being down in that negative place longer than you have to, because you're running out of time. And I don't mean that negatively. I'm just saying, like, why waste your time thinking about those negative thoughts? Use your time wisely to, continue growing and learning and moving your way on up, okay? Also, learn to understand your inner critic. And we can be our own worst enemies. I think everyone knows that. And it's important to remember that when we are coming down on ourselves about every little thing, just know that not everything that our mind tells us is true. It's pretty easy to get caught up in negative thoughts and mindsets, and I believe I've mentioned this before, when you are joining a group of friends and they're already in discussion about something, it's super easy to hop in a conversation where people are talking about mistakes that they've made or bad things that are happening to them or to people around them. But think about the times where you walk into a conversation, if it's often at all, where people are talking about accolades and positive things and oh my gosh, let me tell you all the things that are going great for me this week. Not a lot of people are going to necessarily jump in on that conversation, not as easily as they're going to be able to jump in on negative things happening. So I want to encourage you to realize that maybe your inner self is telling you that you're terrible, that you're never going to amount to anything, that you are just worthless, you're always making mistakes, you'll never be perfect. And also, just so you know, no one will ever be perfect. But you realize that is just your inner critic telling you all of these negative things, trying to drag you down, trying to prevent you from continuing to push forward and becoming a stronger person. And it's like I said, it's your own worst enemy. And a lot of times we think that what's going on in our mind is actually true, and our true thoughts and how we actually feel about ourselves, when that's actually not true. I feel like a lot of times we're in a negative headspace, and we should not necessarily believe all those negative things that are being told to us by our minds. Sometimes we are evaluating criticisms that are helpful to us, but a lot of times we are just in there, tearing ourselves down and taking any negative feedback that we've got from other people and spinning it and making it 10 times as worse, and really bringing ourselves down the most on our own. So I would encourage you to realize that your inner critic is not something that you need to listen to 100% of the time. You can take in the information that it's trying to tell you, but then filter it out by realizing that if it's trying to bring you down to the ground to eliminate you, basically, realize that you can just take a step back and realize, no, I'm not going to accept those thoughts. I'm going to move forward and know that I can still be the strong person that I am, and that I'm going to be stronger from this experience no matter what. Now, if the mistakes you have made affected others, it is important to make those amends. So forgiving yourself for mistakes you have made is important, but it's just as crucial to ask forgiveness from others when appropriate and do what needs to be done to make it right. And so I just want to throw this in, because a lot of times we will believe that some of our weaknesses, some of our mistakes are just things that we mess up on our own, our own personal mistakes that we make while we're trying to learn how to do something or become something or just change something about ourselves. But sometimes our weaknesses are when we actually hurt other people, with our words and how we treat them, and how we are not necessarily putting those that put us first in their lives, putting them first sometimes. So I would encourage you that if part of your mistakes and weaknesses are hurting other people, that you make that right, because despite, wanting to help yourself out and make yourself stronger, you also need to impart that into other people if you are the one contributing to tearing them down as well. So just consider that. Consider asking for forgiveness if it's an appropriate thing to do, and just kind of make amends however it needs to be done with that other person or those other people. And if you haven't come to this realization yet, know that you need to not be so hard on yourself, and make sure you pat yourself on the back when you do good things. Count your progress in whatever you do as positive points. Just because you haven't fully achieved your goals or there are bumps along the way doesn't mean you are a failure or that making any mistakes along the way is a bad thing. Honestly, I think that making mistakes along the way is actually a good thing. And no, I am not necessarily that person that's sitting around waiting for mistakes to be made or like anticipating it. Okay, that's not true. Sometimes I do anticipate it because I get in this like worry state, but I'm not necessarily like, excited, have a parade coming because I'm like, oh my gosh, it's almost time for mistakes to be made. Not necessarily that, but I do want you to realize that it's great when mistakes are made because it gives you that opportunity to know where to fix stuff, to know where to change stuff, to know how you can make stuff better sooner than later, right? Like, wouldn't you want small mistakes to come along the way rather than having really big mistakes like towards the end or towards the grand finale of whatever it is you're working towards? Like, I would think it'd be better to have little bumps along the way rather than a really big one at the end. And even if you do have a really big one at the end, it's still nothing to fret over because, it might be a lot of work. There might be a lot of change needed. There might be a lot of redirection that will be made, but there will be an even bigger learning lesson in the end. Like, you just have to accept that. And if you spend more time accepting that and not being fearful of mistakes being made and your weaknesses showing through, you'll be even more prepared for whenever they come along, If you're just like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. And I don't think it's negative to say like, yeah, mistakes will be made. I don't think that's negative at all. I think that's super realistic, and that's just being transparent with every situation in life because no one is perfect at everything or generally anything when they first start or even in the middle or all the way through, you know what I mean? So I want to encourage you to make sure that you are counting the progress that you're making, the good strides that you're going, all those positive things, how you actually are coming together and there aren't any issues. But when there are issues, I don't want you to be afraid of those coming up because they're going to come up, and the better you prepare your mind that those will come, the easier it'll be to deal with those things. Lastly, I need to remind you that self-care and embracing who you are, mistakes and all, is necessary to becoming your best self. It absolutely is. And self-care and embracing who you are like the top key things of becoming your true authentic self, becoming your best self, and just really loving your life more, loving who you are and what you're a part of even more every single day. No one is perfect, nor do we need to be, because our flaws, our mistakes, everything we have done wrong and right makes us who we are and helps us grow into who we will become. And it's helped us get to where we are right now. It's going to help us get to that next stage in life, and it's going to help us get all the way to the end. And I just want to remind you that that's all amazing things, because don't you believe that people that are perfect or appear perfect at everything, and it doesn't seem like they've been through any bumps or lumps, and it seems like everything is coming easy to them? Yeah, you may want to be them at some times when your life is a little bit harder and where you're struggling and where you're having to actually put in a lot of effort, but I'm sure their life is boring. And it just seems boring, like, how are they learning things? And you might reach out to them and ask them questions on like who they think they are and where do they get their strength from, and they might not be able to answer those things. And people that go so long with avoiding all of those things, and then when something does come up and they aren't necessarily surrounded with or haven't surrounded themselves with people that have gone through the same thing or that have experienced mistakes themselves, they're going to be in a bit of a pickle. Wouldn't you agree? So I just want to encourage you to know that you don't need to try to be perfect. Believe me, I've done that journey. I'm still on that journey of trying to get off of that journey of trying to be a perfectionist. And I want you to embrace your flaws, embrace your mistakes, know that they're going to come, know that you'll be able to overcome them, know that you'll be able to work through them and come out the other side being awesome and amazing like you already are, just even more so. So I'm just going to end this episode right here, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. I hope that you have really enjoyed this episode. And if you know anyone else that would really enjoy this episode, I encourage you to share it with them as well. Please check the description box for all the notes for the show, where you can find me on Instagram, which is at Sabrina Joy Perozzo, and my email address for any questions, comments, concerns, or prayer requests. And you're welcome to check out my website, which is sabrinajoy.com. Where you can find my videos from YouTube, all my podcast episodes, and an upcoming blog, and just some other information about me. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you come back for the rest of the episodes for this week. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. And until then, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye.